I'm going to make this very short. Today I had prepared some remarks, but then after listening to some of the comments, I thought that I would tell you only 3 stories. The first one is about moral leadership. I've been thinking about this issue for quite some time, and I have interacted with many people and asking them, what is moral leadership? For me, as an African, as an East African, and as a Burundian, moral leadership pairs with values. And most of the times, for many of us in Africa, one of the things that we have been taught since we're young is the word ubuntu. I am because we are. That our happiness cannot be complete if others are not happy. So I've often asked myself, if we have such beautiful values, why are we confronted with a crisis of value-driven leadership? Why are we not where we're supposed to be? So 2 years ago, I embarked on a quest to understand our current state of affairs, and I'm still trying to understand it. And the best answer, I got it from an old man in my home country, Burundi. He said, we can only give what we have. And the truth is, you cannot have a leader who was not taught to respect human life and ask him to respect human rights. In the same vein, you cannot have a leader who was not taught that stealing is bad and ask him to fight corruption. Or one was not taught fairness and expect him to strengthen judicial institutions and democratic principles. So the key takeaway here from this first story is that if we want to have value-driven leaders, we need to focus on the education we give our children at a tender age. The second story is about innovative leadership. I have in mind a story told by my friend Charles Onyangobo. He once said that we can learn a lot from criminals. He was quite thought-provoking. He told us a story of how in the East African community, they once appointed a power fast-track committee to speed up regional integration. And so this committee went and interacted with fishermen. And the fishermen were on Lake Victoria. And one of the challenges they had was that their boats were being stolen. And as you know, Lake Victoria is shared by Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda. And the fishermen told them that their biggest problem is that when an engine is stolen in Uganda, it can be recovered in Kenya or Tanzania. So the fishermen were in favor of speeding up the political federation. They told them that the politicians were lagging behind because the thieves have already federated. So, unless they too federated, they would never beat the thieves. In 2017, we were dealing with a drought in Somalia, and one of the things that really struck me was how Al-Shabaab, the terrorist organization, launched drought committees in different regions. They even dug up canals to help farmers to access water and irrigation. Did you know how long it takes to recruit a suicide bomber, on average? It takes about 5 to 6 or 7 months. And did you know how long it takes to recruit a civil servant from the UN or the AU? About 19 months at best. So what does that tell us? It tells us that our criminals are more efficient than we are. or one can be inspired by Jose Roberto, a Philippine real estate developer who has a rule that staff should be able to respond to messages within 10 minutes and accomplish a task within 24 hours. So the key takeaway here is delivery. Value-driven and innovative leadership unless it delivers, is meaningless. People want security, running water, electricity, good roads, and a chance to have big dreams. Let me conclude with my last story, and this one I care about it deeply, since we're in Africa here. And I started by saying I'm an African, I'm an East African, I'm a Burundian. My ambition is to be part of an African vanguard that will tackle the 4 challenges facing our generation. The first one is impunity. The second one is jobless growth. The third one is more investment and trade rather than aid. And the fourth one is political federation. African countries simply don't make sense in fragmentation. We make sense in unity. Our countries are too small to make sense in the current global political order. Take, for example, the combined GDP of the East African community. It's about $155 billion. That of IGAD is $255 billion. Yet Ireland, a country with 5 million people, is $294 billion. And in the East African community, we have 6 currencies, different currencies. So today, people are talking about artificial intelligence, robotics, and even the 4th industrial revolution. While us, on the continent, we're still struggling to implement the decisions that improve the lives of our people. So the vision of an integrated and prosperous Africa begins at our dinner tables. The late US President Ronald Reagan once said that the best leaders are created at the dinner table. So what conversations are we currently having with our kids? If we are indeed engaged in dialogue with them, what part of the conversation needs to change to ensure we instill the right moral values in them? How can their skills be put to positive use, such as that we don't have to borrow a leaf from the criminal organizations? So these are the few questions on my mind I would like to leave you, as I thank you for listening, and I look forward to discussions in the next 2 days. I thank you very much.